The crimson sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the ruins of old Chicago. Nora crouched behind a crumbling wall, her heart pounding in her chest. She peered around the corner, scanning for any sign of the alien patrol. For weeks, the Zarkonian ships had hovered over Earth's major cities, their imposing silhouettes a constant reminder of humanity's defeat. Nora had managed to evade capture so far, scavenging for food and supplies in the urban wasteland, but her luck was about to run out. A low hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Nora's eyes widened as she spotted the sleek, silver craft descending from the sky. Its searchlight swept the ground, illuminating the debris-strewn streets. Time to move, Nora muttered to herself, slinging her makeshift pack over her shoulder. She darted from her hiding spot, keeping low and using the shadows for cover. Her bare feet barely made a sound as she navigated the treacherous terrain. The alien craft drew closer, its engines drowning out the sound of Nora's ragged breathing. She ducked into an abandoned building, praying the decaying structure would shield her from the Zarkonian sensors. As Nora crept through the darkened interior, a floorboard creaked beneath her feet. She froze, listening intently for any sign that she'd been detected. Seconds stretched into an eternity as she held her breath, willing herself to become invisible. The searchlight passed over the building, its harsh beam penetrating the gaps in the walls. Nora pressed herself against the floor, her heart threatening to burst from her chest. Just when she thought she was safe, a metallic clang echoed through the room. Nora's head snapped up, her eyes locking onto the source of the noise. A small, spherical drone hovered in the doorway, its single red eye fixed on her. Before she could react, it emitted a high-pitched whine. "No!" Nora cried, scrambling to her feet. She lunged for the drone, but it zipped out of reach, still broadcasting its piercing signal. The building shook as the Zarkonian craft landed outside. Nora bolted for the rear exit, her mind racing with desperate plans for escape. She burst through the door, only to find herself face to face with a towering alien figure. The Zarkonian stood at least 8 feet tall, its iridescent scales shimmering in the fading light. 4 arms ended in wickedly sharp claws, while a pair of compound eyes regarded Nora with cold curiosity. Well, the alien rumbled, its translator converting the clicks and whistles of its native tongue into stilted English. "What have we here? A little human, all alone in the big bad world." Nora backed away, her hands clenched into fists. "Stay back," she warned, trying to keep the fear from her voice. "I'm not afraid to fight." The Zarkonian's mandibles parted in what might have been a smile. "Oh, I do hope so. It makes the hunt so much more entertaining." With blinding speed, the alien lashed out with one of its lower arms. Nora ducked, feeling the rush of air as the claws passed inches from her face. She spun on her heel, ready to run, only to find her path blocked by 2 more Zarkonians. "Nowhere to go, little one," the first alien taunted. "Why don't you make this easy on yourself and surrender?" Nora's eyes darted from one alien to another, searching for any weakness, any opening she could exploit. Her muscles tensed, ready to spring into action, but deep down, she knew the odds were insurmountable. As the Zarkonians closed in, Nora felt a strange calm wash over her. Time seemed to slow, and for a brief moment, she caught a glimpse of something different. A flash of metal beneath her skin, a surge of power she couldn't explain. But before she could process this strange sensation, a net of crackling energy enveloped her. Nora's body went rigid, every nerve screaming in agony. As consciousness slipped away, her last thought was a defiant promise. "This isn't over." Nora awoke to the hum of alien machinery and the acrid smell of disinfectant. She found herself strapped to a cold metal table, surrounded by blinking lights and unfamiliar technology. A Zarkonian scientist loomed over her, its multifaceted eyes gleaming with interest. "Fascinating," it chittered, prodding Nora with a sensor-tipped appendage. Such a fragile species, yet so resilient. You'll fetch a good price at the auction, no doubt. As the alien continued its examination, Nora's mind raced. The strange sensations she'd experienced during her capture, had they been real, or merely a product of fear and adrenaline? She flexed her muscles, testing the strength of her restraints, but found no give. "Don't waste your energy, human," the Zarkonian advised. "You're not going anywhere. But don't worry, your new life as a prize specimen in some collector's menagerie awaits. Won't that be exciting?" Nora met the alien's gaze, her jaw set in determination. "You have no idea what you've caught," she said quietly, a hint of steel in her voice. The Zarkonian scientist paused, tilting its head in curiosity. For a moment, doubt flickered in its compound eyes, but then it shrugged, dismissing Nora's words as empty bravado. "We shall see, little one," it replied, turning back to its instruments. "We shall see." As the ship's engines rolled to life, carrying Nora away from her conquered homeworld, she closed her eyes and focused inward. Somewhere, buried deep within her consciousness, lay the truth of her existence and the key to her freedom. The journey into the stars had only just begun. The days blurred together as Nora adjusted to life aboard the Zarkonian slave ship. The vast vessel, christened the Nebulous Fang, housed thousands of captives from dozens of worlds. Nora found herself in a cramped holding cell with aliens of all shapes and sizes, each as scared and confused as she was. At first, Nora kept to herself, observing her surroundings and gathering information. She learned the ship's routines, the guards' patrol patterns, and the hierarchy among the slaves. But as time passed, she began to form tentative friendships with her cellmates. There was Zix, a spindly, six-armed being with translucent skin that pulsed with bioluminescent light. Despite his fragile appearance, Zix possessed a sharp mind and a wry sense of humor. He became Nora's closest confidant, teaching her the basics of intergalactic trade language. "You're different, Nora," Zix whispered one night as they huddled in a corner of the cell. "I've seen many humans come through here, but none quite like you. There's a fire in your eyes that refuses to be extinguished." Nora smiled wryly. "Maybe I'm just too stubborn to give up hope." But deep down, she knew it was more than that. The strange sensations she'd experienced during her capture had become more frequent. Sometimes, when the guards weren't looking, she could make her skin shimmer with a metallic sheen. Other times, she found herself processing information at impossible speeds, as if her brain had been upgraded with alien tech. As the Nebulous Fang made its way across the galaxy, stopping at various outposts to trade and resupply, Nora's reputation grew. She became known as a problem solver, someone who could mediate disputes between different species and find creative solutions to the harsh realities of captivity. One day, as Nora was helping distribute meager rations to her fellow prisoners, she caught the eye of Vexilor, the Zarkonian overseer. The towering alien regarded her with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "You there, human," Vexilor called out, his translator crackling. "Come here." Nora approached cautiously, aware of the anxious whispers from the other slaves. Vexilor's reputation for cruelty was well known throughout the ship. "I've been watching you," the Zarkonian said, his mandibles clicking. "You're not like the others. You adapt quickly, learn our ways. Perhaps you could be of use to me." Nora's mind raced. This could be an opportunity to gain more access, to gather vital intelligence. But it also meant walking a dangerous line. "What did you have in mind?" she asked, keeping her voice neutral. Vexilor's compound eyes glittered. "I need someone to help manage the lower decks, someone the other slaves will listen to. Do this well, and your life here might become more comfortable." Nora hesitated, weighing her options. She could feel the eyes of her fellow captives boring into her back. Whatever choice she made would have far-reaching consequences. "I'll do it," she said finally, meeting Vexilor's gaze. "But I have one condition. I want better food and medical care for everyone in my section. We can't work efficiently if we're starving and sick. The Zarkonian's mandibles twitched in what might have been amusement. Bold demands from a slave. But very well. Prove your worth, and I'll consider it. As Vexilor turned to leave, Nora felt a familiar surge of energy coursing through her body. For a split second, her vision sharpened, and she could see the intricate patterns of circuitry running beneath the Zarkonian's scales. The sensation faded as quickly as it had come, leaving Nora breathless and confused. What was happening to her? And how could she use these strange abilities to her advantage? Over the next few weeks, Nora threw herself into her new role. She organized work crews, mediated conflicts, and even managed to implement some improvements to the living conditions in her section. All the while, she kept her eyes and ears open, gathering every scrap of information about the ship's systems and the Zarkonians' plans. Late one night, as Nora lay awake in her bunk, Zix crept over to her side. "I've heard whispers," the alien said, his bioluminescent skin dimmed to a faint glow. "We're approaching the Omega Nexus. It's the largest slave market in this sector of the galaxy. They say the auction will be held there." Nora's heart raced. This was it, the moment she'd been waiting for. Whatever plan she was going to set in motion, it had to happen soon. "Thanks, Zix," she whispered. "We need to be ready. Spread the word, but quietly. When the time comes, we'll need everyone's help." As her friend slipped away, Nora closed her eyes and focused inward. She could feel something stirring deep within her, a reservoir of untapped power just waiting to be unleashed. Soon, she murmured to herself, her fingers tracing the barely visible lines of circuitry beneath her skin. Very soon, the nebulous Fang cruised onward through the star-studded void, carrying its cargo of sentient beings towards an uncertain fate. But unbeknownst to its Zarkonian masters, a storm was brewing in the depths of the ship, a storm named Nora, with the power to reshape the very fabric of their cruel empire. The Omega Nexus loomed before them, a colossal space station that resembled a grotesque spiderweb spun from metal and light. As the nebulous Fang docked, Nora felt a mixture of dread and anticipation churning in her stomach. This was where her true test would begin. Vexilor appeared at the entrance to the slave quarters, his iridescent scales gleaming under the harsh lights. "Prepare yourselves," he announced, his translator struggling to convey the excitement in his voice. "Today, you step into a new chapter of your miserable lives." As the slaves were herded towards the auction block, Nora caught Zix's eye. A silent message passed between them. Stay alert, be ready. Whatever happened next, they wouldn't go down without a fight. The auction arena was a cacophony of sights, sounds, and smells. Beings from 100 different worlds milled about, their attention focused on the raised platform where the slaves were displayed. Nora's enhanced senses went into overdrive, processing the overwhelming input. One by one, her fellow captors were paraded before the crowd. Nora watched in horror as families were torn apart, friends separated, and dignities stripped away. When it was her turn, she stepped onto the platform with her head held high. "And now, esteemed buyers, we have a true rarity," the auctioneer's voice boomed. "A human female, young and strong. Observe her spirit, unbroken, despite weeks in captivity. Who will start the bidding?" As the prices climbed higher, Nora scanned the crowd. Her gaze settled on a figure standing apart from the rest, a tall, slender alien with silvery skin and eyes that seemed to glow with an inner light. Unlike the others, this being regarded her not with greed or lust, but with genuine curiosity. "Sold," the auctioneer cried, his gavel striking with finality, "to the esteemed collector Zerovex." Nora was ushered off the platform and towards her new owner. As she approached, she felt a strange tingling sensation at the base of her skull. The silvery alien, Zerovex, tilted their head, as if listening to an unheard melody. "Fascinating," Zerovex murmured, their voice a melodious whisper. "You are not what you appear to be, are you, little one?" Before Nora could respond, a commotion erupted on the other side of the arena. Zix and a group of other slaves had managed to overpower a guard, sparking a chaotic brawl. Alarms blared as security forces rushed to contain the situation. In the confusion, Nora felt a hand grasp her arm. She whirled, ready to fight, only to find herself face to face with Zerovex. "Come," the alien said urgently. "This is our chance. I can help you, but we must leave now." Nora hesitated, torn between following this mysterious being and helping her friends. But something in Zerovex's otherworldly eyes told her this was her best shot at uncovering the truth about herself and possibly saving everyone in the process. With a silent apology to Zix, Nora nodded and allowed Zerovex to lead her through a hidden passage. They emerged in a private docking bay where a sleek, organic-looking ship awaited. As they boarded, Nora felt a surge of energy coursing through her body. The ship's interior seemed to respond to her presence, lights flickering to life and consoles humming with activity. "What is this place?" Nora asked, her voice filled with wonder. "And who are you, really?" Zerovex smiled, an expression that transformed their alien features into something almost human. "I am a keeper of secrets, young one. And you are the key to unlocking a mystery that spans galaxies." The ship's engines thrummed to life, and Nora watched through the viewscreen as the Omega Nexus fell away beneath them. She thought of Zix and the others, still fighting for their freedom in that den of corruption and cruelty. A pang of guilt stabbed at her heart, but she pushed it aside. She would find a way to help them, to help everyone, but first she needed answers. As they accelerated into the starry void, Zerovex turned to Nora, their expressions serious. "It's time for you to remember who and what you truly are." With those words, Nora felt something click into place within her mind. Memories long buried began to surface, and the true nature of her cybernetic enhancements became clear. She wasn't just a human girl caught up in an intergalactic conflict. She was a weapon, a sleeper agent designed to infiltrate the very heart of the slave trade and bring it crumbling down. As the realization washed over her, Nora's body began to change. Her skin rippled, revealing the advanced technology hidden beneath. Her eyes glowed with newfound power, and information streamed through her consciousness at dizzying speeds. "Welcome back, Project Aurora," Zerovex said softly. "The real work begins now." Nora, or Aurora, as she now remembered, flexed her enhanced fingers, feeling the raw power at her command. She thought of Zix, of all the slaves she'd left behind, and of the countless others suffering across the galaxy. "Yes," she said, her voice resonating with determination. "It's time to tear down this corrupt system once and for all." As their ship vanished into hyperspace, Aurora knew that the next phase of her mission would push her to her limits. But with her true nature awakened and an unlikely ally at her side, she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The revolution was about to begin. The stars streaked by in a dazzling blur as Zerovex's ship hurtled through hyperspace. Inside, Aurora, formerly known as Nora, sat in quiet meditation, her mind racing to process the flood of memories and information that had been unlocked. She remembered now. The secret labs on Earth, hidden from both humans and aliens. The experimental cybernetic enhancements designed to create the perfect infiltrator. The carefully crafted cover identity, complete with false memories of a normal childhood. But something had gone wrong. The Zarkonian invasion had come earlier than expected, throwing the entire operation into chaos. Aurora had been activated prematurely, her true nature buried deep in her subconscious until the right moment. "How are you feeling?" Zerovex's melodious voice broke through her reverie. Aurora opened her eyes, the soft glow from her enhanced irises illuminating the ship's organic interior. "Overwhelmed," she admitted. "There's so much to take in, but I'm starting to understand my purpose." Zerovex nodded, their silvery skin shimmering in the low light. "You were created to be a catalyst for change, Aurora. Your experiences as a slave, combined with your advanced capabilities, make you uniquely suited to dismantle the galactic slave trade from within." "But why you?" Aurora asked, her eyes narrowing slightly. How does a keeper of secrets get involved in something like this? A sad smile played across Zurevek's alien features. My people have watched the rise of this cruel industry for centuries. We've gathered knowledge, waiting for the right moment and the right individual to tip the scales. You are that individual, Aurora. Before Aurora could respond, a series of urgent beeps emanated from the ship's console. Zurevek's long fingers danced over the controls, their expression growing grave. It seems our departure from the Omega Nexus didn't go unnoticed, they said. We're being pursued by a Zarkonian battle cruiser. Vexlor must have realized your true value. Aurora's enhanced senses kicked into high gear, interfacing seamlessly with the ship's systems. She could feel the enemy vessel's approach, could almost taste the ionized particles in its wake. We can't outrun them forever, she said, her mind already formulating a plan. We need to make a stand. Zyrovex looked at her with a mixture of admiration and concern. What do you propose? A fierce grin spread across Aurora's face. We turn and fight, but not just for ourselves. It's time to send a message to every slave and oppressor in this sector of the galaxy. Over the next hour, as the Zarkonian ship drew ever closer, Aurora and Zyrovex prepared for battle. Aurora's cybernetic systems interfaced with the ship's weapons and defenses, enhancing their capabilities beyond their original design. Meanwhile, Zyrovex used their vast knowledge to craft a powerful transmission, one that would broadcast their confrontation to every corner of the nearby systems. As they dropped out of hyperspace in a remote star system, Aurora felt a surge of anticipation. This would be her first true test, a chance to unleash her full potential against those who had enslaved her and countless others. The Zarkonian battle cruiser emerged from hyperspace moments later, its massive form blotting out the stars. Aurora could almost feel Vexilor's rage radiating across the void. "Attention, renegade vessel," a familiar voice crackled over the comm system. "This is Overseer Vexilor. Return our property immediately, or face total annihilation." Aurora's eyes flashed with determination as she opened a channel to respond. "This is Aurora, former slave of the Nebula's Fang. I have a message for you, Vexilor, and for every being watching this transmission." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. "Your reign of terror ends now. No more will you prey on the weak and vulnerable. No more will you profit from the suffering of others. Today, we fight back." With that, Aurora unleashed a barrage of weapons fire that caught the Zarkonian ship off guard. Enhanced missiles and energy beams sliced through the cruiser's shields, leaving scorch marks across its hull. Vexilor's enraged roar filled the comm channel as his ship returned fire. But Aurora was ready. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to dance through the storm of enemy fire, retaliating with precision strikes that slowly wore down the larger vessel's defenses. As the battle raged on, Aurora became aware of other signals joining their transmission. Slaves across the sector, watching the confrontation unfold, began to rise up against their captors. The spark of rebellion she had ignited was quickly growing into a raging inferno. Hours passed, and both ships bore the scars of intense combat. But Aurora's determination never wavered. With one final devastating assault, she breached the Zarkonian cruiser's reactor core. "It's over, Vexilor," Aurora declared, her voice ringing with triumph. "Surrender now, and face justice for your crimes." There was a long moment of silence before Vexilor's defeated voice came through. I yield. But know this, human, you've only scratched the surface of the powers you face." As Zyrovex moved to secure the Zarkonian vessel, Aurora allowed herself a moment of reflection. This victory was just the beginning. The path ahead would be fraught with danger, but for the first time since awakening to her true nature, she felt a sense of purpose and hope. The galaxy was changing, and Aurora would be at the forefront of that change, fighting for freedom and justice across the stars. In the weeks following the defeat of Vexilor, Aurora and Zyrovex found themselves at the center of a growing rebellion. The broadcast of their battle had ignited a spark of hope in countless enslaved beings across the galaxy, and that spark had quickly grown into a roaring flame. Their small ship, which Aurora had affectionately named Starborn, became a mobile command center for the fledgling resistance. Encrypted transmissions poured in from all corners of known space, each bearing news of successful uprisings or pleas for assistance. "We've received another distress call," Zerovex announced, their silvery fingers dancing over the holographic display. "A mining colony in the Cerulean Nebula has overthrown their Zarcomian overseers, but reinforcements are on the way." Aurora nodded, her enhanced mind already formulating strategies. "We can't be everywhere at once," she mused. "We need to think bigger." Over the next few days, Aurora worked tirelessly, using her unique blend of human intuition and cybernetic processing power to devise a plan. She reached out to key figures in the resistance, coordinating a series of simultaneous strikes against major slave trading hubs. As the day of reckoning approached, Aurora couldn't help but think of Zix and her other friends from the nebula's fang. She had managed to make contact with some of them, learning that they had escaped during the chaos at the Omega Nexus. Now, they were valuable allies in the fight for freedom. The plan was audacious, perhaps even foolhardy, but Aurora knew that bold action was needed to break the stranglehold of the slave trade. On the appointed day, Aurora and Zerovex led a small fleet of liberated ships towards the heart of Zarconian space. As they dropped out of hyperspace, the sight that greeted them took Aurora's breath away. Hundreds of ships, ranging from cobbled-together fighters to ripoposed freighters, filled the space around them. Each vessel represented a different species, a different world, all united in their quest for freedom. "It's time," Aurora said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. She opened a channel to the assembled fleet. "Friends, allies, fellow survivors, today, we strike a blow for every being who has ever suffered under the lash of oppression. Today, we reclaim our freedom." A chorus of cheers erupted over the comm system as the rebel fleet surged forward. The Zarconian defense forces, caught off guard by the scale of the attack, scrambled to mount a response. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Aurora, interfacing directly with Starborn's systems, became a force of nature. She danced through waves of enemy fire, her enhanced reflexes and tactical algorithms allowing her to coordinate the efforts of the entire rebel fleet. Zerovex's vast knowledge proved invaluable, helping them exploit weaknesses in Zarconian technology and strategy. Together, they were an unstoppable team, the tip of the spear in the fight for freedom. As the conflict raged, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The coordinated strikes against slave trading hubs had been largely successful, throwing the entire industry into chaos. For the first time in centuries, the balance of power was shifting. But victory came at a cost. Many brave souls gave their lives in the fight for freedom, their sacrifices etched forever in the stars. Aurora felt each loss keenly, a reminder of the heavy responsibility she bore. As the last Zarconian battleship fell, a hush fell over the battlefield. Aurora looked out at the sea of liberated ships, her heart swelling with a mixture of pride, sorrow, and hope. "We've won the battle," she addressed the fleet, her voice carrying the weight of their collective struggle. "But the war for true freedom and equality is far from over. Today marks a new beginning. A chance to build a galaxy where no being is enslaved, where all are free to chart their own course among the stars." Cheers erupted once more, reverberating through the comm systems and seeming to shake the very fabric of space itself. As Aurora basked in the moment of triumph, she felt Zerovex's hand on her shoulder. "You've done well, Aurora," the Keeper of Secrets said softly. "But Vexilor was right about one thing. We've only scratched the surface of the powers at play in this galaxy. Our greatest challenges may yet lie ahead." Aurora nodded, her enhanced eyes gleaming with determination. "Then we'll face them together," she declared. "All of us." As Starborn turned away from the battlefield, setting course for the next challenge, Aurora allowed herself a small smile. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and difficult choices. But for the first time since awakening to her true nature, she felt truly alive. The uprising had succeeded, but the revolution, the fight for a just and free galaxy, had only just begun. The celebrations of victory echoed across 1,000 worlds, but for Aurora, the work had only just begun. In the months following the Great Uprising, she found herself thrust into a role she had never anticipated, that of a leader, diplomat, and architect of a new galactic order. The fall of the Zarkonian slave empire had left a power vacuum, one that threatened to plunge the galaxy into chaos if not carefully managed. Aurora, with her unique blend of human empathy and cybernetic efficiency, became the linchpin in efforts to forge a coalition of free worlds. On this particular day, Aurora stood before the newly formed Galactic Council, her enhanced eyes scanning the diverse array of beings gathered in the Grand Chamber. Representatives from hundreds of species, former slaves and free worlds alike, waited to hear her words. "We stand at a crossroads," Aurora began, her voice carrying easily through the vast space. "The chains of slavery have been broken, but freedom is more than the absence of chains. It is the presence of justice, of opportunity, of dignity for all sentient beings." As she spoke, Aurora could feel the weight of expectation pressing down upon her. She was no longer just a weapon or a symbol. She had become a beacon of hope for countless beings across the stars. "The road ahead will not be easy," she continued. "We must rebuild shattered worlds, heal the wounds of centuries of oppression, and learn to trust one another despite our differences. But I believe that the same strength that allowed us to overthrow our oppressors will see us through these challenges." As Aurora laid out her vision for a united, free galaxy, she caught sight of familiar faces in the crowd. Zix, his bioluminescent skin pulsing with excitement, sat alongside other former slaves from the nebula's Fang. They had all found their places in this new order, working tirelessly to ensure that no one would ever suffer as they had. But even as hope blossomed, shadows lurked at the edges of their hard-won peace. Reports had begun to filter in of a new threat emerging from the unknown regions of space, whispers of an ancient, malevolent force awakening after eons of slumber. As the council session ended and the delegates filed out, Zorovex approached Aurora, their silvery features etched with concern. "The Veil Nebula outpost has gone dark," the Keeper of Secrets said in a low voice. "It's the third such incident this month. Whatever's out there, it's getting bolder." Aurora nodded grimly. She had sensed this coming, had felt it in the strange pulses of energy that occasionally interfered with her cybernetic systems. "We knew this peace wouldn't last forever," she said. "Perhaps it's time we went to investigate ourselves." As they made their way to the Starborn, Aurora's mind raced with possibilities. The liberation of the galaxy had been a monumental task, but it now felt like merely the opening act of a much grander cosmic drama. Once aboard, Aurora interfaced with the ship's systems, feeling the familiar rush of data and sensations. As they prepared to jump to hyperspace, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. She thought of the girl she had once been, Nora, the scared human child caught up in events beyond her understanding. That girl was gone, transformed by struggle and awakening into something more. But the core of who she was, her compassion, her determination, her hope for a better future, remained unchanged. "Are you ready?" Zorovex asked, their hand hovering over the hyperspace controls. Aurora smiled, a mix of anticipation and resolve shining in her enhanced eyes. "Always," she replied. "Whatever's waiting for us out there, we'll face it together. Not just you and I, but all of us who have fought for freedom." As Starborn leaped into hyperspace, streaking towards the unknown, Aurora felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever before. The price of freedom had been high, paid in blood and sacrifice. But as they raced towards new challenges, new mysteries, she knew that it had been worth every cost. The journey that had begun with a scared girl in the ruins of old Chicago had led her across the stars, through battles and triumphs, to this moment, And whatever the future held, be it peace or war, discovery or danger, Aurora was ready to meet it head-on. As the stars blurred around them, Aurora allowed herself a quiet laugh. The story of the galaxy's liberation was over, but a new chapter was just beginning, and she couldn't wait to see where it would lead. The Starborn shot forward into the cosmic unknown, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of a free galaxy, and at its heart, a former slave turned legend, her human spirit and cybernetic enhancements in perfect harmony, ready to fight for freedom wherever the stars might take her. The end of one tale, the beginning of another. For Aurora, for the liberated peoples of the galaxy, the greatest adventures still lay ahead.